Good evening, this is Brastax. I'm Zakir Jacob. It's yet another day of rancid air in Delhi, and this time too our politicians are busy bickering. They have not disappointed us in how low they can stoop to, how tone deaf they can be. Yet again, it is Aam Aadmi Party versus BJP, this time over stubble burning not in Punjab but in Haryana. The Aam Aadmi Party claims it is Haryana farmers who are to blame, not Punjab farmers, when it is clear that farm fires in Punjab, particularly in the last 5 days, have completely spiked through the roof, including over 3,000 fires on a single day on Sunday. When will our netas pay for the price for this toxic air that Delhiites are breathing? Or is this just a seasonal issue, an issue that will be there for a couple of weeks, 3 weeks at best, and then it blows over? There is no political cost to pay. Whereas asking farmers not to burn parali is a politically costly exercise. It could cost any political party that is in power. Is that why our Neta class does not want to touch the most obvious, the most pertinent reason for pollution in Delhi at this time, but they're afraid to touch because of this political cost?
It's November 2023 and in Delhi we have pollution and politics going hand in hand. Because of the smog all around, the visibility is low and we are not able to see Jama Masjid.
Only those vehicles that are carrying essential commodities or are operating or CNG or on electronic mode will be allowed to enter the national capital.
आज चौथा दिन है जब दिल्ली गैस चेंबर बनी हुई है। आम आदमी पार्टी की सरकार में दिल्ली घुट रही है।
केंद्र सरकार दिल्ली को तो नहीं देती, पंजाब को भी नहीं देती फंडिंग, पर हरियाणा को लगातार फंड मिलता है पराली कम करने का, मशीनें खरीदने का, प्रदूषण कम करने का।
So as the air quality worsens, who has failed the people of Delhi? Delhi government has announced the implementation of what is called GRAP 4 measures. That's the Graded Response Action Plan at level 4, which is the highest. So what does this entail? What is allowed, what is not? Only essential services vehicles are to be allowed to enter Delhi. So if you're carrying fruit, vegetable, essential food, you will be allowed. There would be a complete ban on medium or heavy goods carrying vehicles. Also, there will be a ban on construction projects, including, the metro, highways, national highways. All of that will be shut until GRAP 4 is effective. Schools will be completely shifted online. There will be reduced strengths in offices as well. There will be closure of any non-essential commercial activities. The central government might even consider work from home for some of its employees. Now, earlier today, nearly 1,800 trucks were stopped at the Delhi border. About 150 large gear vehicles were also stopped and impounded. About 1,300 diesel motor vehicles were also stopped and impounded. This is all part of what is the GRAP 4 or the Graded Response Action Plan level 4 that has been implemented by the Delhi government. Now, the Delhi government has also announced the odd-even rule will be implemented starting the 13th, the day after Diwali. It'll be there for a week from 13th to 20th because of the worsening air. The BJP has slammed the AAP government for bringing back the car rationing rule. That is part of our Motorola, India's best 5G smartphone brand's tweet of the day.
Hello, Moto.
So, Shehzad Poonawalla of the BJP has written on Twitter that odd-even is like applying Band-Aid while you need surgery. How will odd-even curb the 3,000 daily incidents of stubble burning in Punjab? What has the Aam Aadmi Party government done for long-term solutions on vehicular pollution, road dust, biomass burning and industrial pollution? Just event management is all that the AAP does, and now we are stuck in a gas chamber. That's part of our Motorola 5G tweet of the day. But let me now put this into more perspective for our viewers, because clearly there is an obvious reason. I'm not saying it's the only reason, but there is an obvious reason for why Delhi chokes at this point every year. Let's take a look first at the political war of words that's been going on between AAP and BJP. This happens every year, but this time it's more profound because the Aam Aadmi Party, up until this year, was claiming that Punjab stubble burning was the single biggest reason. Now the Aam Aadmi Party is claiming that there is less impact of Punjab farm fires because Punjab is 500 kilometers away, whereas Haryana is just 100 kilometers away, and their farmers are burning parali or stubble. The BJP has slammed the Aam Aadmi Party and said that Delhi has become a gas chamber because of the polluted politics of the Aam Aadmi Party. The Aam Aadmi Party claims that Haryana and Uttar Pradesh farm fires have more of an impact directly on Delhi as compared to the farm fires that happen in Punjab. Now, the BJP has responded by saying that there were over 3,000 cases of stubble burning just on one day, Sunday, in Punjab alone. That's the highest single day number of instances of stubble burning. The Aam Aadmi Party further claims that polluting BS3 buses come to Delhi from Haryana. The BJP reminded the Aam Aadmi Party before coming to power in Punjab, the Delhi Chief Minister was blaming farm fires in Punjab for the pollution in Delhi. Also, let's take a look at the images that have been released by NASA on the farm fires in Punjab. While it is true that prior to October 30th, the number of farm fires was far less. These are NASA images that have been put up. This is prior to October 30th. There was just 1,030 farm fires. On the 1st of November, just between 30th and November 1st, just the space of a couple of days, it had gone up to almost 2,000. But suddenly, in that first week of November, by November 5th, and you can see the change in the red, how much more red this map is, and each red dot is showing you a fire, how much more red this map is compared to just about a week ago on the 30th of October. On the 5th of November, there were 3,230 farm fires, which is double, in fact triple of what it was just a week ago on the 30th of October. On the 5th of November, it's 3,230 cases. That is the highest in a single day in the history of Punjab. So, citizens are choking, our netas are bickering. The question that's being asked, and this is our debate topic tonight, again part of the Motorola debate topic tonight, who has failed Delhi?
Hello, Moto.
All right, so joining us on the big talking point this evening, Manjinder Singh Sirsa is BJP spokesperson, Jasmine Shah, spokesperson of the Aam Aadmi Party, Dr. Sanjeev Agarwal is former additional director of the Central Pollution Control Board, and Dr. Sanjeev Bagai is chairman of the Nephron Clinic. Jasmine, let me start with you first, because when you were not in power in Punjab, you were constantly saying that let us come to power in Punjab, we'll put an end to the parali burning problem, we'll use this chemical developed by the Pusa Institute, we'll provide deep cutters to the farmers. None of that has happened, Jasmine, and as I explained to our viewers at the beginning of the show, on Sunday the 5th of November, just yesterday, 3,230 farm fires in Punjab, which is the highest in a single day. What are you doing about this stubble burning problem?
Zaka, first let me share with you what is the actual composition of the air pollution in Delhi, and then we'll talk about the farm fires in Punjab. I am referring to no less than the Government of India's decision support system data, which shows that of all the contribution of pollution in Delhi, only 25% is coming from within Delhi. And as far as farm fires, it very clearly shows, the first graph here, that it is 20% as on November 5. So 20% of this air that we are breathing to right now is coming from farm fires. This is Government of India's own source contribution data. This used to be, Zaka, if you remember last year and the year before, it used to be around 40 to 45%. And that is where we have to put in context the contribution of farm fires. You shared only the daily data of farm fires. What is the most important data, Zaka, is that today, as on November 5, the total farm fires as per the NASA satellite data in Punjab is 17,400. Go back 1 year back, it was 29,400 until November 5, a 41% reduction. We are still saying that it needs to come down to zero. But from 29,400 to 2000 in 2022 to 17,400, you are seeing a 41% reduction in Punjab. Punjab government is doing excellent work. Farmers are supporting it.
No, Jasmine, one second. One second. There is a bit of clarity there. One second, Jasmine, please. I think our viewers need to know this. There is a bit of clarity that needs to be provided in that figure, and that is the number of Punjab farm fires this year, post October 30th, has tripled, like I showed you. Whereas last year, the bulk of the parali burning happened in the last week of October, not in the first week of November. And the reason is for all kinds of factors. There were delayed rains this time around. There were more rains in September, so the sowing season itself got delayed. So those are various reasons. But the fact is that by the end of this season, by Diwali or beyond Diwali, you will see more or less the same number of fires in Punjab as compared to what was last year. All that has changed is that the peak season of parali burning has changed. Last year it was last week of October, last 2 weeks of October. This year it is the first 2 weeks of November. That's the only difference. The number of fires will eventually turn out to be the same.
No, Zaka, that's not true. I think we can do this debate again in the mid of November. Certainly the entire season has moved by 1 week, and by November 6th or 7th they were supposed to peak. What we are seeing now is the fact, and this is irrefutable, this is the satellite's own data, as on date, November 5, as compared to last year and this year, there has been a 41% decrease. But more importantly, Zaka, why are we singling out just the farm fires? Government of India's own data shows that today, as on November 6, the contribution of farm fires to Delhi's air pollution and Delhi NCR is 20%. So the question is, where is the remaining 80% coming from? Why are UP and Haryana allowed to pollute? None of the action that the GRAP has recommended. Are diesel cars moving in Delhi? They are not moving. Are diesel buses moving in Delhi? Not moving. But you go to Haryana and UP, not a single measure is being implemented. Construction is going on unabated. Vehicles are allowed to ply unabated. All kinds of violations are taking place while questions are never being asked to Haryana and UP, and that is the problem.
No. The reason why those questions compared to the questions to Punjab were muted was because till last year, when you were not in power in Punjab, you were saying Punjab parali burning is the single biggest reason. Now you've conveniently shifted that to Haryana and UP.
No, this is data. Zaka, this is unfair. This is absolutely unfair. I've showed you like-to-like data. I've told you that as on date, 41% reduction
like I
in
said,
farm fires.
that is slightly disingenuous because the dates have changed. But anyway, let me ask Manjinder Singh Sirsa. Manjinder Singh Sirsa, you are in power in UP, you are in power in Haryana. Last year, there was a dip in the number of farm fires in Haryana, but this year, the number of farm fires has gone up again in Haryana. Why is it that if last year they could have brought down the numbers, this year they are not able to do that? And also to the point that Jasmine made, construction activities continuing unabated in UP and in Haryana, diesel buses are being allowed to ply. So you can conveniently blame Punjab, but what about UP and Haryana, which are much closer to the national capital?
Zaka, we have neither we have ever blamed Punjab, neither we have blamed UP, neither we have blamed Haryana. We have just blamed the Aam Aadmi Party failure, which is from last 9 years. बहाने पे बहाना, अगले साल ठीक हो जाएगा, उससे अगले साल ठीक हो जाएगा, उससे अगले साल ठीक हो जाएगा. When it comes to the pollution, then there is a press conference by Arvind Kejriwal, and God forbidden, this year you don't see any press conference by Arvind Kejriwal because he knows every year I have been lying on TV channels, continuously lying on TV channels. So he has no face to show on TV channel and come and say कि मैंने इसको pollution को ठीक कर दिया. This is the one man जिसने सब गिरगिटों के रंग को भी फेल कर दिया. आज चैनल पर आकर यही लोग पिछले 3 साल की डिबेट उठा लो, चिल्ला कर बोलते थे कैप्टन अमरिंदर सिंह जिम्मेवार है, पंजाब से पराली का धुआं आ रहा है. हम बार बार पूछते थे 500 किलोमीटर का धुआं दिल्ली में कैसे आ गया? बोलते थे आ रहा है जी. अब पंजाब में भी खुद की सरकार है. नाउ दे आर शोइंग डेटा. देखो जी 40% ड्यूज. मैं किसान का बेटा हूं, शायद इनको जैस्मिन शाह जी को नहीं पता होगा. आई मस्ट सरप्राइज हिम दैट सीजन हैज डिलेड बाय ऑलमोस्ट 23 डेज. 23 दिन डिले चल रहा है ये सीजन. जिन लोगों ने जीरी लगाई थी वो लोग पिछले 20, क्योंकि सरकार ने फॉर योर इंफॉर्मेशन पंजाब गवर्नमेंट में नोटिफिकेशन जारी करके ऑर्डर पास किया था कि अगर किसी ने जीरी लगाई तो उसका मुकदमा दर्ज हुआ, और लोगों की लगी हुई जो चावल जीरी थी वो उखाड़ी गई क्योंकि आप लगा नहीं सकते, सरकार ने टाइम फिक्स कर दिया था. एंड फॉर दैट रीजन दिस हैज डिलेड. नाउ इट विल कम, द एग्जैक्ट नंबर्स एंड पिक्चर्स विल कम. after 5 days or 7 days. That will be the exact number. And secondly, you are the Chief Minister of Delhi. Your responsibility is for Delhi. Your people have elected for Delhi. How come somebody is blaming every other day for every other fault? For dirty water, they'll say हमें हरियाणा से नहीं आ रहा, हरियाणा में गंदा पानी कर देते हैं. For dirty air, they said हमें पंजाब, अब यूपी से आना शुरू हो गया, पंजाब की हवा अब ठीक हो गई है, अब हमें यूपी से आनी शुरू हो गई है. आप इनसे पूछें कौन सी ऐसी चीज है जिसका ब्लेम ये खुद मानने को तैयार हैं. दिल्ली की पोल्यूशन की जिम्मेवारी किसकी थी? दिल्ली को साफ रखने की जिम्मेवारी. देश में बहुत सारी और मेट्रो सिटीज हैं, उनकी जिम्मेवारी किसकी है? वहां की सरकार की है. किसी सरकार का बयान आप मुझे सुनाइए जो ये कह रहा हो कि मैं तो जिम्मेवार नहीं हूं जी, मैं तो छत्तीसगढ़ और मद्रास मध्य प्रदेश में चुनाव पे जा रहा हूं जी, जिम्मेवार जी पंजाब के मुख्यमंत्री थे जी, आजकल हरियाणा की होगी जी, क्योंकि हमारी पंजाब में सरकार आ गई जी, अब तो यूपी वालों को मानेंगे जी हम जिम्मेवार. Have you ever seen a chief minister running away from ED, running away from CBI and running away from the people of Delhi?
So before I go to Dr. Agarwal and to Dr. Bagai, I think, Jasmine, you need to clarify this to the voters of Delhi who voted for you not once, not twice, but 3 times now in the last 10 years. And they're asking a simple question. You seem to be blaming everybody else except what is happening in Delhi. By your own data, if 80% of the problem of pollution in Delhi is within Delhi, why aren't you fixing it?
No, I did not say that, Zaka. I said local sources of pollution within Delhi are 25 to 30%, remains comes from 70% comes from outside. That is not our data, Government of India data. And every single thing Sirsa ji has said, basically it means that they have no accountability towards the people of Haryana and UP. Today, out of the 50 most polluted districts in India, 20 are in Haryana. Greater Noida is at number 1. So they have no answers. They never say what they have done. Their only job is to blame game. सेंटर की कोई जिम्मेदारी नहीं है, हरियाणा की जिम्मेदारी नहीं है, वहां पे लोग मरे तो मरे. दिल्ली वी हैव अकाउंटेबिलिटी टुवर्ड्स पीपल ऑफ दिल्ली. आई विल टेल यू 5 थिंग्स बर्बाद करें, हरियाणा को भी कर रहे हैं, गुड़गांव को भी, नोएडा को भी. जैस्मीन, इट इज योर गवर्नमेंट व्हिच इज स्पॉइलिंग गुड़गांव आल्सो एंड नोएडा आल्सो. 50%. You are responsible for Noida also, you are responsible for Gurgaon also. Over the last 8 years, pollution in Delhi has reduced by an average of 50% also. And this gentleman Arvind Kejriwal has polluted the entire NCR. Haryana and UP will be aware of this, Jasmine Shah. Every time they will come entire NCR has been polluted by none other than Arvind Kejriwal.
Look, let's not talk over each other. We won't be able to understand what either of you are saying. But let me go to Dr. Agarwal and then Dr. Bagai. Dr. Agarwal, as somebody who's been closely associated with the Central Pollution Control Board, now my point is there may be a number of reasons, number of causes for Delhi's pollution: vehicular pollution, construction dust, and of course now this stubble burning. You know, the problem that's happening is because of this multitude of problems to tackle in order to clean up Delhi's air, we're ending up tackling nothing, saying this is more responsible than that, Punjab is more responsible than Haryana, Haryana is more responsible than UP. Ultimately, we are not attacking any of these problems, all of which contribute to Delhi's pollution. And that is the tragedy that's happened in the last 5-7 years. Dr. Agarwal.
I just want to say my points, 2 points. One point is that we are always talking about that the pollution in Delhi, although pollution in Delhi is there. But what I mean to say that pollution is also in Punjab, pollution is also in Haryana, pollution is also in UP. But my point is that when the Punjab government, I worked for more than 25 years on this particular problem. In Punjab also, I myself has visited in the field and find very critical pollutants which are coming out through the burning. And it is true that the NASA pictures which we have collected 10 years ago, that is also clearly evidence that the pollution is coming from Punjab. I would say Parali is also burned in Haryana, and Parali is also burned in UP, but is very less quantity. So what you said that the fires are more in Punjab, that is true. First thing. Second thing is that the government of India has given a lot of funds from the center to take care about the Paralis, to rectify the problem, to use the technologies, not to allow to burn the things, burn the Paralis, and I think this can be solved the problem. So
No, but Dr.
these
Agarwal,
are
where is all of this? There were supposed to be these deep cutters that will cut from deep within the ground in a way that the stubble is removed. We haven't seen any of those machines out in the fields of Punjab. There was this liquid, this chemical, which the Chief Minister famously said, you know, Pusa Institute has developed it. 5 minute mein problem khatam ho jayegi, usko aap laga do kheton pe, and then the whole thing will disintegrate. We're not seeing any of these chemicals. Where is all this money? Where are all these solutions? It's certainly not out in the fields.
It's not actually what you said, right? It is not the solution. Basically, we should not blame to each other. We should fight for the human being. What my scientific evidence is that the parali is the reason. Because of the winter season, more paralis are burned, and then more problem will be in Delhi. Also, this partly contributing from Haryana, partly contributing from UP. I don't say that completely from Punjab, but because of more fires, this is the problem.
Okay.
As you said, the contribution, the lot of money has been given for controlling the or converting into the biochar this particular paralis. But I don't see anything which where it has gone. The money has already given by the state governments, and then CAQM, Commission for Air Quality Management, has taken a drastic action on that.
Okay,
But,
so let me ask Dr. Bagai, and I'm sure,
the-
Dr. Bagai, there must be a sense of deja vu for you as a practicing doctor. Every time at this season, whether it's late October, early November, when your patients come to you, and the hardest part is, you know, children who have respiratory problems, how do you tell them the same, it's the same problem. It's not like they're coming to you with a new problem. Respiratory / bronchital problems at this time of the year, we know what the causes are. What are you advising them, and how do you advise them the same thing for 5 years, 10 years? Because the problem simply refuses to go away, because none of our elected representatives want to seem to do something to make that problem go away.
Good evening, Zaka. Good evening, everyone on panel and all the viewers. I think very clearly what has been depicted in the last few years, and more so this year, because the pollution has been just through the skies, is that pollution is an abandoned baby. And the mistakes being committed now and in the past few years are of catastrophic proportion, monumental errors. And this is actually amounting to disease, mortality, and death. I think we need to get our act together. There is, I agree, there is no point in blame game, but I think we need to see visible results. So what we do is we are seeing almost a 50 to 100% increase in respiratory symptoms, skin allergies, eye infections, ear infections, pneumonias, bronchitis, exacerbation of bronchial asthma. Just a few statistical points which will drive home my point is that even 1 microgram increase in either PM 2.5 or NOx or SOx or ozone, activated ozone, can increase the mortality, cardiac mortality by 4 to 8%. That is huge. When you're looking at arrhythmias, you're looking at hypertension, strokes, you're looking at wheezing, chronic obstructive lung disease involving the pregnant women, having the genetics of a new unborn child damaged to be born with cancers of the lungs, the brain, the heart, being involved, the kidneys being involved, the mental health issues, and so on. And the list is huge. What we need to see is visible results on the ground, which unfortunately we've not seen. I'm not playing any politics because that's not my core domain. But we want to see results. We need clean air to breathe. I, Zaka, in my own practice in the last few days, have seen newborns being discharged on day 3, day 4 of life, coming in with wheezing and bronchitis. Are we being fair to the next generation? Is this what we are leaving behind? And let me put it very clearly. We all travel through Delhi. The road dust is huge. Jasmine, I would really request you and urge you to have punitive action against the guilty. We know that the construction norms are being openly violated and flaunted. Even as we speak, if you drive down in the major residential colonies, in a place like Vasant Vihar, and I must mention this as a case example, I have taken the association to court because they have felled more than 500 trees. Matter is sub judice in the High Court and the tree officer. I request you to take so most action, Jasmine. Hold the guilty responsible. We destroy the environment today, our kids will not live well and not live long in the next few years.
So, Jasmine, there were supposed to be these dusting machines, automatic vacuum cleaners, the smog tower that was installed with much fanfare a few years ago at the cost of 23 or 25 crore rupees is today defunct. It's not working. I mean, surely either this problem is not being taken seriously or this is a dispensable problem by a chattering class. It's not a vote bank. It's a seasonal problem. It's there for 2, 3, 4 weeks and then everybody forgets about it.
Not at all, Zaka. I think all of the panelists here agree that air pollution is a regional problem of Delhi NCR. Delhi as a city occupies only 3% of the landmass of Delhi NCR, and which means that all of us need to take actions in our respective domains. As far as Delhi government is concerned, suggestions are always welcome. We can always do more, but some substantive actions, Zaka, have been taken in the last 8 years, which Haryana and UP have not even started. And that is the disparity I'm pointing to. My point is not to do any political blame game. I only request via that Delhi can act on 6-7 measures in a big way, but Haryana and UP don't have any answer. Number one, we have shut down all our thermal power plants in the last 8 years. Number two, we have increased our buses, the fleet of buses from 5,000 to 7,500, which is a 50% increase. Haryana and UP have not added a single bus. We have the most progressive EV policy, Zaka, today in the entire country. 17% of all our newly registered vehicles are EVs. I challenge Mr. Sirsa to say that how much percentage of his vehicles are EVs. No DG sets are running in Delhi. There is 24/7 electricity. That was not the case earlier. UP and Haryana, you see 6 to 8 power cuts. Big residential complexes are running on diesel generators. All our registered industrial units, Zaka, have shifted to clean fuel, piped natural gas. But if you go to Haryana and UP, you see this polluting chimneys, no action being taken. So my point is that let's compare apple with apple, orange. AAP's government is completely accountable for all the actions we are taking within Delhi. And I've listed 5-6 measures. Let him also say what have they done in Haryana and UP.
सिरसा साहब, आप भी बता दीजिए कि इलेक्ट्रिक व्हीकल्स का क्या प्रोपोर्शन है, डीजल व्हीकल्स का क्या प्रोपोर्शन है, पोल्यूटिंग इंडस्ट्रीज के बारे में आप क्या कर रहे हैं. I mean, let the people of Delhi know and let them decide कि किसकी रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी है, किसकी जिम्मेदारी है और कौन क्या कर रहा है इस प्रॉब्लम को सुलझाने में.
अच्छा हुआ Zaka, one thing is good now here, Zaka. At least somebody on your TV channel is admitting his failure and by saying कि हमने तो नहीं कंट्रोल किया, अब यूपी और हरियाणा वाले कंट्रोल कर लें. वोट दिल्ली से मांगेंगे, कंट्रोल यूपी हरियाणा करेंगे. बट एज फार एज योर फ्रेंड इज कंसर्न, उन्होंने ये नहीं बताया कि दिल्ली में जो बड़ा उछल कर बता रहे थे अरविंद केजरीवाल जी, हमने जी हवा को साफ करने की मशीन लगा दी है जी. अब ये मशीन चलेगी जी और दिल्ली की हवा को साफ करेगी जी. वेयर इज दैट मशीन नाउ? जैस्मिन, लेट मी फिनिश. आई नो ना, बिकॉज़ नाउ यू
let him do that. Please allow him to.
He is not unable to face my question.
Yeah.
See. So, Zaka, you ask a question कि उस मशीन का क्या हुआ, जो एयर प्यूरिफायर लगाए थे उनका क्या, वो बंद पड़े हैं. और क्यों बंद पड़े हैं? कह रहे हमारे पास पैसे देने को नहीं है. पैसे कहां गए? वो जी अरविंद केजरीवाल जी के घर के ऊपर 75 करोड़ रुपया लग गया ना जी, इसलिए अब हमारे पास पैसे नहीं बचे. अब दूसरी बात, अब ये कहते हैं इलेक्ट्रिक बार, ये कह रहे वी हैव एडेड 7,000 बसेस, और बसेस ही सबसे बड़ा पोल्यूशन का कारण है. आपको केंद्र सरकार ने इलेक्ट्रिक बसेस दी, लेकिन आप अपनी खुद की कोई इलेक्ट्रिक बस नहीं ले पाए. दैट इज द सेकंड बिगेस्ट फेलियर ऑफ योर पार्टी. थर्डली, जितनी दिल्ली की इंडस्ट्री थी, आपने उस इंडस्ट्री को आउट दिल्ली से शिफ्ट करना था. वो आज तक भी इंडस्ट्री के लोगों को उनका घर नहीं मिल पाया. इट इज नॉट शिफ्टेड आउट. एंड फोर्थली, जो मेट्रो एक्सटेंशन थी, जिसको आपने तो काम कभी शुरू किया ही नहीं, वो मेट्रो एक्सटेंशन का काम आज तक बंद पड़ा है. अगर आपने वो काम किया होता तो दिल्ली का पोल्यूशन ये ना होता. एंड फिफ्थली, बड़े इंपॉर्टेंटली, जिन्होंने कहा इलेक्ट्रिक व्हीकल्स, आई मस्ट टेल माई जेंटलमैन फ्रेंड that these electric vehicles concept has been bought by none other than the government of India, by Narendra Modi, by Gadkari ji. What is your contributions towards that? क्योंकि जो भी काम केंद्र की सरकार अच्छा करे वो आपका. एंड आई मस्ट प्राइज थिंग वन थिंग टू माई माई डियर फ्रेंड जैस्मिन शाह, दैट इफ यू रिमेंबर जस्ट 10 days बिफोर दिस AIQ level, your minister Atishi was giving a statement on Twitter and on a TV. हमने दिल्ली के पोल्यूशन को बहुत नीचे ले आए हैं. देखिए आज दिल्ली कितनी साफ है. तब तो आपने नहीं कहा कि जी दिल्ली का यूपी ने साफ करके दिया, दिल्ली का पानी और हवा. तब तो आपने नहीं कहा. जब आप फेल हो जाते हैं तो आपको मोदी जी भी याद आते हैं, आपको एलजी भी याद आते हैं, आपको खट्टर भी याद आते हैं और आपको योगी जी भी याद आते हैं. लेकिन जब आपको क्रेडिट लेने की बात होती है तब हमारे अरविंद केजरीवाल जी ने किया. आपके अरविंद केजरीवाल एक बिगौड़ा है, सीबीआई से, ईडी से, हवा से, पानी से दिल्ली गंदी की, दिल्ली का पानी गंदा किया, और अब दिल्ली में करप्शन से दिल्ली को तबाह करके लोगों के बच्चों को सांस खींच रहे हो।
The tragedy over the last 10 years or so, since Delhiites have been facing this problem, is this whole political back and forth, bickering, tutu meme that happens between Aam Aadmi Party and the BJP. The first thing that we need is to come to a consensus on what needs to be done on a war footing. I have personal first-hand experience of how this was changed in some of the other global cities. It is not a difficult problem to contend with. It is not. It is an easy problem to deal with, provided everybody is on the same page. And it does not, and it should not have to take so much of political bickering for some common sense solutions to the air problem, particularly at this time of the year. We'll leave it at that. Let's see if next year is slightly better. But I want to, if you are watching this program and Delhiites have been suffering, the vulnerable, the elderly, young children, particularly the ones who have some kind of a history of respiratory or bronchital illnesses, what do those people have to do? What precautions do they have to take? And also, a lot of people have been writing to us and asking questions about connections between COVID and now dealing with respiratory illnesses, and whether human bodies have changed pre and post COVID, as it were. Joining me now is Dr. Randeep Guleria. He's former director of the All India Institute of Medical Sciences and also one of the leading pulmonologists in this country. Thank you very much, Dr. Guleria. First things first, we've all seen the pollution levels in Delhi. The AQI is above 400 in most places, above 500 in some places as well. As citizens of Delhi, and I want to particularly talk about the vulnerable folks, whether they are elderly citizens, whether they are young people who have respiratory conditions, asthmatic, what is it that they can do as individuals to try and better protect themselves, to try and build immunity, to try and ensure that they can sustain themselves through this 2-3 week period that we see every year when Delhi's pollution hits the peak levels?
So I would say there are two things that we can do. One is from our own responsibility as responsible citizens to try and decrease the carbon footprint or the pollution that we are causing. So try and sort of avoid using a lot of vehicular traffic, use public transport if possible, do carpooling and activities like that, walk up to the market rather than taking your own vehicle. So that is one activity that one can do in terms of his or her own contribution to decreasing the levels of pollution. I know it's a small thing, but it may make a big difference if everyone does that. Secondly, to protect yourself, especially the vulnerable population, those who are the elderly, the young children, and those who have chronic conditions like chronic respiratory conditions, chronic heart conditions, I would really say that if the AQI is in the severe range, or if it's anywhere above 200, it's better if you avoid going out, stay indoor. If you do have to go out and because of necessity, then try and do it when the sun is out during the midday, when pollution levels may be a little less, and it would be worthwhile to wear a mask because that may give you some protection. Also, don't exercise outside, because if you're exercising in an environment where pollution levels are high, when your respiratory rate goes up, your breathing becomes more rapid, you will tend to inhale more of the pollutants, and that may cause worsening of your respiratory problems. Those who have underlying respiratory or heart condition, if they have any problem, they should consult their doctor immediately so that their medicines can be modified, increased, so that they don't land up in the emergency subsequently during the next few days.
Doctor, is it also true, and I want to know if you've seen any anecdotal evidence in the patients that you're seeing in OPDs, etc., that since COVID happened and now there is the pollution problem as well, the immunity levels and the response mechanism of the human body is also a little different from what it was pre-COVID. Are you seeing people having to deal with respiratory problems, the intensity of those problems, the length of time it takes to cure those problems are far longer now than it was pre-COVID? Is there any anecdotal sort of evidence that you can share with us from what you're seeing amongst your patients?
So we need to have more data, but there is data during the COVID pandemic, both from Italy, where the initial part of the pandemic went, and now more recently from New York City, which clearly shows that when you have high levels of air pollution, respiratory infections tend to be more severe. and that was in relation to COVID. So they clearly showed that wherever pollution levels were high, people had more severe respiratory infections in the term of viral respiratory infections, and it also means that it takes a longer time to recover. We also know that if you have pollution in the air, we have PM 2.5 and ultrafine particles which remain suspended in the air, the virus can stick to these particles and stay in the air for a longer period in time, causing more infection and may also lead to a little bit more severe infection.
What we're also seeing, because there are multiple factors at play which are contributing to the pollution, whether it's construction dust, whether it is road dust, vehicular pollution, and of course the stubble burning business. And we need a multi-pronged approach to deal with all of this. But unfortunately, what's happening is the whole thing is just slipping through the cracks, where we're not dealing with any one factor that's contributing to pollution in a wholehearted fashion, in a wholesome fashion, and therefore the problem persists, and it's been persisting for the better part of the last 10 years at least.
I think that's true, and this is a chronic problem. We see it every year, and every year during this time of the year, around Diwali, maybe before or after Diwali, we have these few days or maybe a few weeks where air quality really goes into the very severe range. I remember at one time AQI even was up to 999, and Delhi was really in very bad shape. Unfortunately, we have not really developed sustainable action plan, and like you said, even if it has to be multi-pronged, it has to be practical, sustainable, and something that is visible, even if it's a small step every year, so that we can say that year by year we are improving the quality of air in our city, even if it's a single prong or a multi-pronged small step. But we don't see that happening. We usually have a knee-jerk reaction, and then we sort of forget about it once things become a little better. So unless we have a sustainable, practical solution where all stakeholders are brought on board and they are able to really understand the health concern that pollution is causing. You see, this is like a medical emergency. It's causing significant effects, not only acutely, but long-term exposure to such high levels of pollution is causing a significant health hazard to the population in the city.
All right, Dr. Guleria, we'll leave it at that. Thank you very much for joining us and giving us your thoughts and practical solutions on what Delhiites can do to try and equip themselves better to deal with this chronic problem of pollution, particularly at this time of the year. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, it's going to be a month since the Israel-Hamas war began tomorrow. What has Israel achieved so far? What is his objective? Have those objectives been achieved? How long will it take for those objectives to be achieved? And more importantly, at what cost? How many more civilian lives will have to be lost for Israel to achieve its war objective and for it to come to some kind of a conclusion? I'll be speaking on the other side of this quick break with former National Security Advisor of the United States, Ambassador John Bolton, over 1 month of the Israel-Hamas war. That's right on the other side.
Hello, Moto.
बोल रहे हैं 900 से ऊपर चला गया। मुझे समझ में नहीं आता कि ये पराली का जो प्रॉब्लम है ये हर साल का प्रॉब्लम है, स्पेसिफिक इसी टाइम पे क्यों होता है। और यहाँ पे इतनी हालत ख़राब है। मैं जोधपुर में था 15 दिन, वहाँ जोधपुर में तो आसमान में आप तारे गिन लो, उत्तराखंड में चले जाओ वहाँ तारे गिन लो। तो गवर्नमेंट को कुछ करना चाहिए। ब्लेम गेम चल रहा है कि दिल्ली गवर्नमेंट बोलती है सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट बोलती है दिल्ली गवर्नमेंट, और 500 किलोमीटर की रेंज भी नहीं है। हरियाणा और पंजाब तो कोई एक ही, अगर देखा जाए ज्योग्राफिकली कोई बहुत बड़ा डिफरेंस नहीं है। तो कुछ ना कुछ होना चाहिए। खाली मुझे नहीं लगता कि खाली पराली का ही कारण है, और भी बहुत सारे कारण हैं। तो कुछ ना कुछ होना चाहिए, क्योंकि दिल्ली में रहना मतलब ये है, अगर आप दिल्ली में रह रहे हो तो अपनी लाइफ जो है आप 5-7 साल डेफिनेटली कम कर रहे हो कंपेयर टू अदर प्लेस जहाँ पे ये सब स्थिति नहीं है। तो स्थिति बहुत ही दुर्भाग्यपूर्ण है। कुछ ना कुछ ज़रूर होना चाहिए, मुझे लगता है।
Phase 4 of the Graded Response Action Plan has been implemented out here in the national capital, which means that vehicles coming from outside the borders of the national capital, they would be checked and stopped, and only those vehicles that are carrying essential commodities or are operating or CNG or on electronic mode will be allowed to enter the national capital. Currently, I am reporting from one such border of the NCR region. This road connects Ghazipur, Uttar Pradesh state towards the national capital. If I could just move out of the frame and try and show you in the visuals over here, that none of the vehicles, absolutely no vehicles that are crossing this border are being checked. They are being allowed to travel inside the national capital unabated. Over the past 1 month, we have seen that several stages of the Graded Response Action Plan has been implemented out here in the national capital, but the reality on the ground seems to be absolutely different, because there are very few checkpoints that have been placed out here in the national capital to make sure that the GRAP, that is a reason why the GRAP is implemented, that could also be implemented on the ground apart from being implemented on paper. A big reason behind this is being said that the civil defense volunteers who are part of the Delhi government have actually given up their job because they haven't gotten the salary for a very long time, and that is the reason why they are not deployed on the ground, making sure that whatever measures that have been implemented through the GRAP policy, that is implemented on the ground as well. So yes, it remains to be seen if at all the Delhi government can find some way to make sure that whatever policies they are trying to bring in at this point in time to make sure that the air quality remains under control and people of Delhi are allowed to breathe in fresh air, that is implemented on the ground. But yes, hectic parleys are continuing between the Delhi government and the Delhi administration, but we are still waiting to see some concrete solution that is given out and that could be implemented on the ground, which could eventually mean that the people of
It's going to be 1 month since the Israel-Hamas war began. On Tuesday, more than 1,400 Israeli civilians were killed in those dreadful attacks that happened on October 7th. In response, Israel has launched a massive operation, first through airstrikes and over the last week or so, a limited ground operation. Israel's objective is very simple: to try and cut Hamas off its knees in a way that Hamas will not ever dare launch the kind of attacks that it did on October 7th. Is this achievable? How much of it has been achieved so far? And most importantly, at what cost? The rising civilian casualty toll is clearly acting as a pressure point on Israel from both the international community, from the United States, its biggest ally and benefactor, and of course, from neutral countries who have no skin in this game. Let me now go across to a very special guest who's joining us on this interview as we approach the first month anniversary of this war. Ambassador John Bolton is former National Security Advisor to the Trump administration. Thank you very much, Ambassador Bolton, for speaking with us. So Tuesday is going to be a month since the Israel-Hamas war began. What is your assessment of where things stand as they stand today? Israel, in a sense, after October 7th, the entire world was outraged by what we saw. Israel was the victim, clearly. But in response, the way they've gone about with aerial strikes, with the ground operation, thousands of Palestinians dead, many of them happen to be children and women. Do you see time and options running out for Israel the longer this war drags on?
Well, it's hard to predict with certainty, but I think the most likely read here is that we're still in the very early stages of this conflict. And I think it's important to understand really what the full context of the conflict is. It's not a case of a Hamas war on Israel. I think these operations are directed, certainly approved by the mullahs in Tehran. I think this is a coalition effort against Israel involving Hamas in the first instance, but also Hezbollah, the Houthi rebels in Yemen, Shia militia groups in Iraq, and obviously Iran itself. And the objectives, I think, are to impose as much harm on Israel as they can, and perhaps on the Gulf Arab states, and perhaps on the United States. But remember, everybody was taken by surprise by the Hamas attack, so it's very hard to read what Iran's overall strategy is. But I think it's in that larger context that people should evaluate what's happening. in Gaza. There is no question but that Israel is entitled to exercise its inherent right of self-defense. And as long as it is targeting legitimate military objectives and it weighs the proportionality of the strike, the seriousness of the military target compared to the risk of collateral damage, it is entitled under the law of war to proceed. I think what it's facing is a very well coordinated, actually quite sophisticated propaganda and disinformation campaign about exactly what's happening in Gaza. So I don't understate the pressure that's going to be brought on Israel, but I think after what they saw on October the 7th, they'll be perfectly resolved to resist it.
We're also seeing, and what this war has done in a sense, is it's deeply divided civil society, and we're seeing this nowhere more so than in the United States. We're seeing this in protests outside the US Congress. We're seeing this in campuses across America. This event has really split American society, and we haven't seen something like this since the Ukraine war. I would even go back all the way to the Vietnam War. How much elbow room do you believe the Biden administration has to back Israel to the hilt on this? So far they have, but we have seen Secretary of State Antony Blinken in Israel over the weekend. There's always this constant statements about, a humanitarian corridor and that Israel needs to follow the rules of war, etc. Is time running out in that sense? Time and options running out? At what point do these statements from US officials stop becoming statements and are requisite of more actions that Israel takes?
Well, you've identified a very important point here. This is a split within the United States, primarily in the Democratic Party, with the very left wing of the party opposing the Biden administration's policy. The bulk, the more traditional part of the Democratic Party, I think, still very supportive of Biden and of assistance to Israel. This split, unlike Ukraine, does not affect the Republican Party, which is as close to unanimous in support of Israel as you can get in contemporary American politics. And I think this split, which is to oversimplify somewhat, but this is basically a split within the left of the Western democracies. You see the same pattern in Europe, in England in particular, but really I think throughout Europe. And it does raise a risk for Israel that Biden support has already begun to weaken.
Okay.
There are a lot of tactical calls here, but I'm sure the Israelis can see what everybody else can see on television, and I'm sure they're taking it into account. Remember, one of the tenets of Israel's defense strategy since its independence in 1948 was that they had to be prepared on their own to defend Israel. They had seen what happened during the Holocaust and World War II. They didn't ever want to be dependent on anybody else again. They're certainly prepared to receive assistance, and in the case of the United States, we're certainly prepared to deliver it. But fundamentally, I think Israel knows that at some point it's going to have to continue on its own. And I just believe from all that I've heard from inside Israel and in the United States, they are very serious when they say their objective is to eliminate Hamas as a political and military force. And if they follow through on that in what could be a long struggle, they know they may have to finish it alone.
I do want to get a word from you also on the stand that has been taken by India, both in the context of this current conflict. I think Prime Minister Modi was one of the first world leaders to come out and pretty unequivocally condemn the Hamas terror attacks. What are your thoughts on the stand that India has taken, not just in this war, but also in the previous Russia-Ukraine war, where India's stand was slightly nuanced, slightly different, keeping, of course, its own self-interest in mind. What are your thoughts on that?
Right. Well, it's obviously something of considerable importance to the United States, and I think it reflects India's growing significance on the international stage. I wish the position on Russia's invasion of Ukraine was more supportive of Ukraine. I understand the circumstances. I think what we need to talk, certainly between the United States and India, about is how to make India less dependent on Russian weapon systems, Russian oil and gas. I think we're seeing a new axis forming in the world, a Chinese-Russian axis. That obviously has enormous implications for India, and I think that in part is what's playing out in Ukraine. Now, in the Middle East, nobody needs to tell people in India what the risk of radical terrorist attacks can be. And so I think solidarity with Israel there comes from understanding the nature of the threat that Israel is facing. But I also think this plays into the larger geostrategic picture. You know, a few days ago, Russian Prime Minister Medvedev said that Israel did not have a right to self-defense because it was an occupying power in Gaza and the West Bank. That happens not to be true, but it was an interesting statement. We've also seen reports in the press that the Wagner Group is assisting bringing air defense systems to Hezbollah in Lebanon. And I will guarantee that Wagner Group doesn't take a step without Vladimir Putin's approval. There are other signs as well, but it may well be that in its growing closeness to Iran for the war in Ukraine, the Iranian drones they're using, Russia's also, in effect, switching sides in the Middle East. Because of the extensive Jewish emigration from Russia, there had actually been pretty good Moscow-Jerusalem relations. I think that may be shifting. That would be a very historic shift, and I think that's something we're all going to have to take a close look at.
All right, Ambassador John Bolton, we'll leave it at that. Thank you very much for your thoughts on this 1 month anniversary, if you will, since the beginning of this war between Israel and Hamas. So what is going on the ground? Clearly over the weekend there's been intensified ground operations. What the Israeli strategy is to try and divide up Gaza Strip into the north and the south, asking all the civilian population to move to the south, and the northern part, which also has Gaza City, which is the stronghold of Hamas, they're going to have a limited ground operation there, possibly occupy that place, and of course make sure that the objective, which is to destroy all the infrastructure that Hamas had to try and launch the kind of attacks that we saw on the 7th of October, that is completely razed down to the ground. So this is Israel's strategy. Explain how this whole idea of cutting up Gaza into north and south, whether it is feasible and whether or not it will achieve the objective of annihilating Hamas. Thanks for tuning in. I'll catch you again tomorrow night, same time. The Israeli military carried out expansive airstrikes in Gaza over the weekend as we approach 1 month since the October 7th attacks. Israeli ground troops claim they have completed the encirclement of Gaza City, slicing the coastal enclave into 2 parts. An Israeli Defense Forces spokesman said that the military was carrying out widespread strikes on terror infrastructure, both above the ground and below it. An official with Hamas, the terror group which rules Gaza, said that for hours over both Saturday and Sunday, there were intense bombings which have been taking place around hospitals and schools.
Hamas systematically exploits hospitals as part of its war machine.
The vicinity of the largest hospital in Gaza, Al-Shifa, saw particularly heavy strikes, according to Salma Maroof, who's the head of the Hamas government's media office. The hospital, Israel says, hosts the terror group's main base of operations. The Hamas claims could not be independently verified. Palestinian telecom firm Paltel has accused Israel of cutting internet and telephone lines in the Gaza Strip right before the weekend operations. The blackout, which Israel has not commented on, came hours after Israeli forces claimed that they had split the coastal enclave into 2 after fully encircling Gaza City. Today, there is a North Gaza and there is a South Gaza, according to an IDF spokesperson, noting that troops led by the Golani Brigade's reconnaissance unit, who are part of the 36th Division of the IDF, had reached the coastline and they are holding the lines. The intensified push came as Israelis marked a month since Hamas's brutal October 7th assault on communities in southern Israel, in which more than 1,400 Israelis, most of them civilians, were killed by armed terrorists. Many of these Israeli victims were in their homes, some of them were at an outdoor music festival, and some of them were unfortunately on the road in the kibbutzes along the border between Gaza and Israel. At least 240 people of all ages have been abducted and they continue to be hostage in Gaza. As the war has raged on, Hamas and other terror groups have continued to rain rockets on Israel, displacing over 200,000 Israelis and also causing widespread damage, despite the cover provided by the Iron Dome missile system. Israel has appeared to pursue a two-pronged strategy in Gaza. On the one hand, it has urged civilians to head south as it carries out heavy bombing raids and a large ground offensive coming from the north. The northern part of Gaza is home to Gaza City, where Hamas is thought to have an expansive network of underground tunnels. On Sunday, the military said it facilitated the opening of a humanitarian corridor on Gaza Strip's main north-south road to allow Palestinian civilians in northern Gaza to evacuate to the south. The Israeli military, though, says it will still allow civilians who want to leave northern Gaza to head south, but not the other way around. It has also urged Palestinians to avoid becoming human shields for Hamas. An estimated 800,000 Palestinians have fled to the south from Gaza City following repeated Israeli calls to evacuate. But hundreds of thousands still remain in the north, including many who left only to later return, citing the dire shortage of shelter and food and other necessities. Israeli airstrikes have also repeatedly targeted the southern cities of Rafah and Khan Yunis, both of whom are crossing points, and these attacks have happened at various points in the last month. The United Nations says about 1.5 million people in Gaza, that's about 70% of the population, have fled their homes already. Many have sought shelter from airstrikes either in schools or in hospital buildings. Israel has repeatedly accused Hamas of attempting to prevent Palestinians from evacuating from northern Gaza, including Hamas firing on its own people and bombing evacuation routes in a bid to try and keep the civilians there because they need civilians as human shields, as a bit of cannon fodder, if you will, to try and help build international pressure for a ceasefire. Israel says its offensive in Gaza is aimed at destroying Hamas's infrastructure. It is vowed to eliminate the entire terror group, cut off its knees in a way that Hamas will not ever be able to do another attack of the kind that we saw on October 7th. Israel also says it is targeting all the areas where Hamas operates, while at the same time it seeks to minimize civilian casualties. Gaza health authorities say more than 9,000 people, including many women and children, have been killed in the fighting in the last month. The figures issued by the terror group cannot be independently verified. Israel says it has killed about 1,000 Hamas terrorists in Israel on and after October 7th and captured more than 200 alive. It believes many more terrorist bodies have still not been recovered and tallied. With Gaza City surrounded, troops have begun carrying out ground operations on the outskirts of the city. It's a dense urban environment which is expected to pose a major challenge for Israel's army. It's literally going to be house to house, block to block kind of fighting. Since the beginning of the ground offensive in the Gaza Strip about a week or so ago, the IDF has struck more than 2,000 targets by land, air and sea. The plan is to try and cut off Gaza into two. Northern Gaza, which includes Gaza City, will be pummeled, will be reduced to rubble, will be razed to the ground, whereas in southern Gaza, which is close to the coastline, which is close to the crossing points into Egypt, there will be less of both ground invasion as well as airstrikes. Occupying the northern part for a period of time, whether that's 3 months or 6 months or even up to a year, then to ensure that Hamas's infrastructure in Gaza City and the rest of northern Gaza is cut off, and to also install a friendlier regime in its place. These are Israel's objectives. But the critical aspect is this, that as these 2 million or so people leave from northern Gaza into southern Gaza, there is expected to be a humanitarian catastrophe, as has been warned by the United Nations, and B, there is no guarantee that Hamas terrorists will use the ruse of civilians fleeing and try and hide themselves in those fleeing populations to escape Israel's bombardment. All in all, Israel finds itself in a difficult place, but its plan currently to split Gaza in two and ensure that one part of it is completely annihilated in a way that Hamas cannot launch any more terror attacks on Israel does seem the most viable plan that it has as of right now.
Pillar to post to just get a grasp of fresh air, can actually breathe in fresh air and air that is safe for them, safe for the children, and safe for their parents as well. Today is the fourth straight day when the AQI in the national capital has remained in the severe category, which means the AQI has remained above 400 for 4 consecutive days, which means that the air that the people of Delhi are breathing is becoming toxic and worse day by day. Currently, I am reporting from the pollution hotspot of the national capital, that is the Anand Vihar bus terminal. From today itself, the Graded Response Action Plan Stage 4 has been implemented, which means due to which we can expect that the traffic in the national capital might be under control. But if I could show you in the visuals over here, these are the kind of visuals that we are bringing to you live from Anand Vihar terminal. If you could see the manner in which the vehicles are still plying on the road according to the grab that has been implemented, the stage 4 of the grab that has been implemented. No vehicles who are operating on diesel engines should be allowed to enter the national capital until and unless they are helping in essential commodities, or they are operating on CNG or electronic engines. But yes, we can see that there is very little check and balances that have been made at this point in time, and vehicles are being allowed to move freely from outside the national capital to within the national capital. Many other steps have also been taken by the Delhi government. If I could just show you in the visuals on the other side of the road.
Hello, Namaskar. This is First Post and you're watching Vantage with me, Palki Sharma. Exactly 30